A pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Yours truly, Carlos Brown. I'll be joined by Charles Edmond very shortly. Guest menu looks like this for October the 14th. Charles Edmond, Brandon B.J. Jones, and Coach Vann Pettaway will be the guests on today's show. Here's simply what's trending on the Carlos Brown Show. Who will win the Western Division in football? That's a great question. Right now, 4 teams are vying for that title. I don't know right now on October 14th who will get it done. We shall see the rest of the season. Southern University celebrates homecoming, the 2023 edition. Happy homecoming to all of the alums that are back. First-time alums, those who have been alums for a long time, and for those coming back to Southern University for homecoming, perhaps for the first time. Enjoy yourself, and looking at social media, there's no homecoming like a Southern University homecoming. Also, the SWAC announces a Pac-12 basketball SWAC Legacy Series. We'll take a look into that as well. And then also a SWAC announces their men's basketball schedule. We'll definitely get into that when we visit with Coach Vann Pettaway. That's what's trending on the Coles Brown Show. Well, we'll start off with Southern University football, and this time last week, it was a huge matchup between Southern University and FAMU. Unfortunately for the Jaguars, they dropped a 26-19 decision to FAMU. Once again, Jaguars offensively scored first, 8 plays, a 90-yard drive. But after that, not too much scoring. 6 points in the second quarter and only 7 points in the fourth quarter. Folks, I'm just perplexed. I think I know what's the problem, of course, from a non-coaching perspective. But you can look at every game this season, they've scored first, but they haven't scored a lot. Still, way down in the rankings as far as scoring offense. This offense just seems to it just seems that when defenses adjust to what Southern's doing in game, Southern doesn't adjust accordingly. Running game has picked up. It's a little bit better, but this an offense that Coach Dooley said would be a track meet on the field, just haven't seen it. And through 17 games, the record is 9-8, a little bit over 500%. Maybe you can tell me what is going on. It's not just one factor offensively, it's multiple factors. But for the Jaguars, once again, with a big time opponent coming in to A.W. Mumford Stadium, they fall short. It's not that they don't play hard, but they're just not getting it done offensively. Defensively, in my humble opinion, they play well enough to win. Are they perfect? No, but they're pretty good defense. Still in the top three in all defensive categories, just about. Just truly, simply, it's offensively. So I'm perplexed. What can they do to get better offensively consistently? Maybe you can tell me. I'll look in the chat room and you tell me what you think. I just gave you some opinions of this football team with the loss, 2-3 overall, 2-1 in conference play. Now, of course, the first two games lost to conference members from the Eastern Division against three opponents from the Eastern Division. They're 0-3. Joseph says Dooley is proven to be mediocre, a mediocre coach. 9-18 after 17 games. And guess what? You still pull for Southern University. I'm an alum, a fan as well. What can we do? You still have to support this football team. Homecoming 2023. Opponent, Lincoln of California. But it's not so much about who the opponent is. Sometimes the biggest opponent is within yourself. Now we'll visit with Charles Edmond. We'll bring him in. And Charles predicted a Southern University loss. And for the Jaguars, still, their goal is still ahead of them. They can still win the West. But for most Jaguar alums, supporters, and fans, it's still just not a good feeling. Not a good feeling at all. I wonder why. Good morning, Charles.
Good morning, Carlos. Happy Saturday. And you are exactly correct about Southern University football. I was just looking at the stats, and they're number one defensively in terms of points given up, only giving up an average of 15 points a game. That's good enough any time of the day to be able to be where you need to be. But they're not there offensively, and that clearly is the problem there. I mean, you have an offensive-minded coach and Coach Dooley, and clearly it's you start fast, but then after that, it just kind of goes the other way. And you got to fix that because every game you start fast, and once teams make the adjustments, you got to make another adjustment. Just looking at the stats from last week's game in terms of running the football, and you got almost 300 yards of offense against FAMU, but just can't seem to get consistency offensively. And I think a number of teams can say that in this league. The Braves one of those teams as well. So I think we got to fix this thing. Got to get right. Got to get better. But all the goals are in front of you, though. Still, if you just talk about Southern University, I just as a SWAC fan, and I wore two hats last week, Carlos. One as a Braves fan, hoping for a loss. To pin a loss on the Jaguars, to open the race up a little bit. But then I also offered a challenge as a SWAC fan to Southern University football in terms of, can you win the big games against the big teams in the conference at home? And you lost to two of them, Jackson State and FAMU.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just wonder, do you play up tight at home? There were some boos in the crowd. I know BJ Jones is coming on. He had a pretty good spiel on that as a former player, and I get where he's coming from. And it's just, it's a whole different dynamic in fandom today. They're going to express their opinion when they don't see the product producing. Boos are a part of it. It's unfortunate, and it's really rougher now. But as far as Southern University is concerned, I just challenge them to rise up at home against the best teams in the league. And it has been a struggle, not only this year, but just in years past. Yeah, they won some games when the Braves were pretty good. When we won that 6 straight division titles in the East, the Braves had success in Baton Rouge. I would just like to just see Southern last week get it done against the best of the best. And we both agree FAMU's the best in the conference. So you got some work to do. Lincoln on homecoming. Southern's going to score as many points as they want to score today. And you got to get ready for Bethune-Cookman on the road next week.
And that would be more concerning to me because, it's on the road. That's why I said in my opening, and no disrespect to Lincoln, but it's more about the opponent is within. And you look at this game today, what do you get out of it? As far as they're expected to win. If they win, they put up 70 points or whatever. Hopefully it'll get to a point early on where you can start playing a lot of people, second unit, third unit, and it's homecoming. And then next week, Bethune-Cookman. But back to you look at the FAMU and Jackson State game. FAMU, I think this may have been even a deeper wound because you really played on the defensive side well enough. And in spite of the inconsistency offensively, and when I look at this offense, and I was looking at the stats as well, but some of the notes I made to myself is this team reminds me offensively of some of the when Coach Richardson was the head football coach and going up against Jackson State. It's either big plays or nothing. You don't see a lot of, although last week was a good example of what they should do consistently, 8-play, 90-yard drive. You don't see a lot of that. You see a lot of big plays. They scored first. You saw a big play again, a 72-yard pass. But I guess it's the consistency. And it reminds me of the Jackson State offenses of the 90s. If they didn't make a big play or big play for a touchdown, then you kind of saw they self-constructed, imploded, penalties, inconsistent, couldn't run the football consistently. And those are some of the things that you see with this offense. Now, they're throwing for a great bit of yardage, but again, it's inconsistent. Michael says, Carlos, could it be that every defensive coordinator knows Dooley offense? It also could be that Dooley is a better offensive coordinator than a head coach. And that was Mike Jones. That's very interesting. First part, we talked about defenses adjust. And to answer this question, I think they have adjusted too. You don't see, like FAMU, they used a tight end a lot last week. I want to say if he wasn't the leading receiver, he was close. You don't see intermediate passes, slants. I thought you would see more backs involved in the passing attack. I just haven't seen it. Now, if I'm wrong, and those who are watching the show, you tell me I'm wrong. I can handle it. But I haven't seen that. And then I see a defense that's on the field a whole lot. And then about the third or the fourth quarter, particularly fourth quarter, they get tired. And they give up points. And by the way, congratulations to FAMU. They came in and did a good job. Did they play perfect? No. But Musa threw for over 300 yards. But when defenses make adjustments against this Southern's offense, they don't have an answer to me. They really don't. They don't make an adjustment. So I'm perplexed. It's very disappointing. Boos in the stadium, yeah, I did hear it. It was very loud, particularly when you were down in the fourth quarter and time is running out. And Coach Dooley explained it. I don't know if people buy into it, but I know Jay Walker on the broadcast was talking about, why are you running the football? You need to score quickly. You need to be in a super hurry. I just don't understand it. Also on first down, predictable. You got to mix it up. But again, from a non-coaching perspective, I just don't see it. And yeah, I know we're going to say it several times. Your goals are still ahead of you, but it just doesn't feel right. It really doesn't. Christopher said you're not wrong. So I just think making adjustments. It's like, okay, I'm calling the plays and it works, and then teams adjust to it. Defensive coordinators, it's like, well, it still should work because it worked before. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, when
We'll
you
go in
look
the
at
chat room.
when you look at Dooley when he was at Prairie View, when you had Jalen Morton in that offense there, once teams kind of figured out Prairie View a little bit when he was there, the offense kind of slowed down a little bit there as well. So I think what you're saying is not wrong. And I'm just thinking about the Dooley teams at Prairie View. Yeah, he had success, but there were times and they scored points early in his tenure there. And so when you look at the adjustments that are made and slowing them down just enough, and then the defense obviously at Prairie View was not all that great, I think that's a valid point. And so I think what do you do? I mean, do you tear it down at this point?
No, you make adjustments. I don't think you can.
Yeah.
Um, like Joseph says in the chat room, you are correct, Carlos. Routes consistently take too much time to develop. Need more quick throws. I've seen some bubble screens, but it's a lot of long passes and there's no variety. It's no variety. You have too many doggone weapons to not be able to utilize all those weapons. And I know quarterbacks get a lot of the blame, and it was some ball security issues. Um, you can see receivers open and the quarterback just not getting there. And then, just to be honest, the offensive line play, I know they've had some injuries. BJ is going to come on and he'll probably bring it up, but he says he doesn't see no physicality with this offense. So I think it's a fair assessment to the Jaguar Nation is sitting there and just kind of like exploring and looking at everything that they see that's going on, and they're not happy with it.
Yeah.
Special teams, that's been strong usually. They had an off night last Saturday, cost them some points, and boy, a big uh, muff punt really just and FAMU goes down and takes advantage of it. Um, to me, FAMU is still the best team in the conference, but this game was not like a game that said, "Oh, Southern had no way of winning this game." They very well could have won the ball game. To me, Jackson State at that time was the only time that they were thoroughly whipped.
Yeah. I think, what you're seeing right now throughout the league, not just with Southern or even Alcorn. I mean, I think, when you look at Alcorn, we're just doing enough. When you talk about Jackson State the last couple of years, they were pretty dominant most of the time in that 2-year run, 3-year, whatever it was. But right now, what you're seeing in SWAC football right now, teams are just doing just enough. I think what you talked about, FAMU, they're doing just enough. And it's good enough as long as it wins games. And they're doing just that. Is it dominant? Is it overwhelming? No, but it's good enough. But then you look at the other side of the coin. Is Southern doing enough? Clearly, no. Clearly, no. And you look at the schedule, you got to go to Alcorn. You got to go to Bethune next week. You got, Texas Southern and Prairie View coming to Mumford. You got to get it fixed because it's right there in front of you to take it if you want to take it. And I still think I'm a believer in Southern University football on the road. I've said it at home in big games. It's tough, but on the road, Bethune, Alcorn, they're going to show up because no one is pulling for them. No one's pulling for them. Everybody thinks, not saying that they packed it in, but people just don't think Southern can go on the road and get it done. And I'll be doggone if they prove you wrong. So yeah, it's a struggle right now. What you gonna get out of Lincoln today? Probably nothing. Probably nothing. And that's just reality. I mean, I think Southern's gonna score 80 points somewhere in there. And I think you talk about calling the dogs off. I don't think that's going to happen today. I don't think it's going to happen.
I think you give players, if you're up quickly, they're up, say, by 3 or 4 touchdowns first quarter. I think you give your backups. You may need them. Yeah. I mean, what good does it do to don't call the dogs off against Lincoln? That's not going to make me feel one iota better.
I get it.
Cookman, because why? This team is just, on an offensive standpoint, too inconsistent.
Let me explain why. This is just my humble opinion.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a frustrated fan base, when you have a frustrated team, mm-hmm. It's homecoming. And you know what happens on homecoming. People show up and show out. I think Southern's going to try to prove to people we're back.
Against Lincoln? And scored 180 points.
I get that. I get it. Hey, I get it. You're not wrong. But I get it.
That's a quick gratification. I'm more concerned with dominating and winning beyond this point.
I get it. But we're not beyond this point right now. We're talking about Lincoln at 6:00 or whatever time the game is. I get that. You're not wrong. But when you're frustrated and you need something good to happen, you want to show people, hey, we got this under control. And so a game like this, yes. What are you going to get out of it in terms of getting back on track? Probably very little, if anything. But again, it's homecoming. You're going to have 30,000 in the house. People are looking for good things to happen. And yes, it's Lincoln. Yes. I was talking with one of our alums the other day, and they were, our homecoming was last week. And they told me, look, I see all these other homecoming opponents and all these one-sided games. And this is just one person's opinion. He said, you know what? I would love that we played Grambling on homecoming. Now, homecoming to me is about dates more so than opponents. We've had that conversation before. Our normal homecoming is the 3rd week in October. The calendar and the schedule didn't fall the way it normally falls. You're either going to have homecoming later or you're going to have homecoming earlier. So it just so happens that Grambling being when it is, and that was the opponent on that date, that's homecoming. But they liked the fact that we had a challenge on homecoming, and Grambling darn near came to Spinks and beat us. They had a chance. They had a couple of opportunities. Muff punt on special teams, a touchdown that was overturned that was ruled incomplete at first, but we got it done. But this one person, and just maybe one person, liked the fact that we played a tough opponent on homecoming. That's their opinion. Some would like to see the cupcakes on homecoming. But, when you're a struggling team like Southern is, your fan base is mad, they're angry, they're frustrated, they're ticked off, they're pissed off. And hey, some of our fans are too, despite the fact that we won 2 in a row, too close for comfort. Some of our folks still aren't all that pleased because offensively we bogged down. And you talk about the boos against Prairie View in the 4th quarter, there was some boos at Spinks. So these things do happen. And I heard it. We got a pretty good mic that I paid pretty good money for, to pick up those good sounds, but there were some boos. But the reality is that Southern's going to score as many points as they want to score. And do I think they should call the dogs off? Sure. But do I expect that to happen? Probably not. Only because it's homecoming and you want to show the fans, hey, we got this thing under control. Is it necessarily right? And I might be wrong about this. I might be totally wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'll come back next week and say that I'm wrong. But I do think that the frustration, the team struggles, you got a chance to correct it a little bit and show people that we got it. I think Southern's going to score as many points as they want to score in this game to show people, hey, in a way, we're coming back. Even though it don't mean a doggone thing when you play Bethune next week down in Florida. You, like you say, win the week. And this is the week. It's homecoming and it's Lincoln to California. And you want to win the week and you want to win it big.
Well, you see my expression. That don't cut it for me. I mean, they're going to win. Look, let's just be honest about it. They can win by how much they want to, how many. To me, this game, once again, boils down to, that's a sad state of affairs. If, you're pissed off, you're frustrated, and I'll just look at myself. If they score 80 points and they win 80-0, am I happy? That's about how much happy I am. Because when I look at what has been accomplished so far, the lack of it, I'm still more concerned. This game won't make me drop all the feelings I have. Not this one game. They could score 120. They could be on ESPN highlights. But deep down inside, that shouldn't make you happy. I would have been much happier winning 26-19 over a good, tough FAMU team. I've been happier if one of our most energetic rivals, Jackson State, win that football game. Alabama State, just kind of shocked. So Lincoln happens to fall on the schedule because they're the next opponent. Yeah, they will win the week. Edwin says, I'm sorry, Carlos. Anything less than domination will continue to be moaning. I messed that one up.
Moaning and groaning.
Moaning and groaning. They could win by 150-0. It's going to be moaning and groaning. Because, again, they know that this team has not been consistent, specifically offensively, play calling. Just hadn't gotten it done.
Well, the one thing I will say, and I do watch Coach Dooley's presser during the week when he has his media availability, and he seems to be very, very low key and kind of confident in terms of what he feels like what's going on with his team. I mean, every coach does that. I mean, there are people that are asking him pretty good questions. Jim Klein, Peter, I hear him. I wish I could be in the room because he's trying to get out of him what he can. And it's okay because you're just like you're frustrated. I think he wants to try to get some answers too, just like anybody would with Southern or any team when it's struggling. But Coach Dooley feels like, hey, I've been doing this thing for a minute. I know what it looks like. I know what it feels like. I know what it tastes like. Just stick with us. And I know that's tough to do. And
that's fine, Charles.
Yeah.
That's fine. But at the end of the day, you fail or succeed, you will be held accountable. Yeah. 9-8 after 17 games. For those who feel, hey, that's a winning record. It is. But are you really satisfied? Don't try to sell me some malarkey. If it smells bad, it is. Do they have a chance to still accomplish their goals? Yes. But this game today, I will only be happy because it's a win. Am I going to turn flips and jump up and down if they win 80-0? No, they should win. They should dominate. I feel better. I feel better.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's I think right now when you look at the SWAC right now as a whole, are we looking at one team that's just blowing the socks off anybody right now? FAMU's looked okay. They got by Jackson. They look okay. They can be had. But other than that, there's really no dominant team. And I think that's what's probably frustrating for me at times. And I think for you, the fact that that if we can put some things together, this Braves team is totally different than it was a year ago. I looked at the stats. We averaged 1.9, and Braves football is known for running the football, right? We averaged 1.9 yards per carry against Grambling. We had 58 yards against Bama State. We averaged 2.7 yards per carry against Prairie View. We know running the football is what Braves football is about, and we have struggled. But Aaron Allen has stepped up, one of the top passers in the league. You could make the case easy, top 2 behind Musa. Some would say number 1, who knows? But, we're a totally different team. So we've made adjustments, but we're doing enough. Our offense, just like Southern, is bogged down. Our fans are on the edge of their seat too, just like Jaguar fans are. But we make enough plays to get it done. Against Prairie View, we did not. Against Bama State, they literally handed us the game in the last 5 minutes. Against Grambling, we found a way. And Grambling gave us a couple of gifts as well. So right now, as far as SWAC football is concerned, it's so much up for grabs. Yes, FAMU is the best team in the league, but anything else is pretty much up for grabs if you can get some consistency going. And right now, Southern is struggling with that. We're trying to get some consistency on offense a little bit. Our special teams, we had a couple of PAT situations that we didn't get done last week. It's kind of a mismatch in the SWAC right now, and that's what makes it frustrating. That's what makes it exciting, because someone's going to take this thing. Who is it going to be? And I think that's the second half of the season. I think those questions need to be asked, and somebody's going to answer them.
Yeah, I've even had people to say North Carolina Central, FAMU in the Celebration Bowl, North Carolina Central wins it by 10 plus. I just shook my head. Wow. You just never know. But first, the West must be decided. FAMU pretty much will be the representative of the Eastern Division. Who will win the West? BJ is standing by. It'll be interesting to see what BJ has to say about all of this. It's homecoming, I understand, and you have to hear the frustration, the disappointment. Those are the words I hear. I also can add angry, shocked, but disappointing is the word for this season so far. According to my calculations, after 17 games, 9-8. Mediocre against the good teams. Have not done a good job. But, hey, 1-0 against Alcorn. In a couple of weeks, they go to Alcorn and take a victory. Coach Dooley will be 2-0 against Alcorn. 1-0 against Grambling.
And that's the one game, Carlos, as watching this football team, talking about Alcorn, that's the one game that scared. I mean, all of them, of course, you're concerned. But the one, I said it on this show, and I'm going to keep saying it all the way up until we play Southern University in the last home game of the year. That's the one game that scares me at this point in time. Southern University, Alcorn at Spinks. That game worries the heck out of me even to this day, and we're off today because I do think the Jaguars will rise up on the road when no one is giving them a chance. Somehow, those type of games are the ones that they find a way to play their best games. And at home, I've made my point known about that, but on the road, it's a whole different story. To me, from the outside, using your words, from the outside looking in, Southern to me seems to play a little bit different, a little bit better on the road when everyone's pulling against them than they do at home.
I don't know about that one. We shall see. I'll have to look that one up. We'll take a timeout. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We shall return.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Yours truly, Carlos Brown, Charles Edmond. Now we're going to be joined by Brandon B.J. Jones, a man of many talents, former Southern University football player, inside HBCU football. B.J., good afternoon to you. Am I getting that right? Good afternoon.
Yeah. Good afternoon.
I'm in that Central Standard Time, and BJ, a frustrated Southern alum. That's me. During the break, someone said Coach Dooley will get up and talk about at the press conference of how many points they've scored when they defeat, and I say when, not if, when they defeat Lincoln University. That's shameful. Tell me I'm wrong. I don't think he will. He'll just say, hey, we did what we were supposed to do. But as an alum, BJ, will it make you feel so much better if they blow out Lincoln?
No. because that's something that you're supposed to do.
Yeah, that's what
It,
I
it
thought.
does it does it does nothing. Does nothing but puts a W on the schedule and get some stats. But no,
Well, let's get into it. This 2023 football season, high expectations, pick to win it in the West, still can accomplish that goal. But are you frustrated as a Southern alum?
yes, I am. It's been a difficult season, Carlos. Started down at Alabama State, losing the game that now people are really scratching their heads over. You know, for a week there, people said that hey, that was a good loss. That Alabama State team is up and coming. And then as we're sitting in the press box getting ready for the Jackson State game, the news comes over that Alabama State has indeed lost to Miles College, and so that goes out of the window. And then you have a performance against Jackson State and this team has offensively has looked out of sync for the entire year. It's been wonky. You know, the one thing that we have been able to hold our head on is the defensive side of the football. But offensively, I think that's a lot of frustration. I think that frustration is carried over too, because we had these things a year ago, and you hear these things that we have the offensive guru as a head coach, but an offense that's averaging over the last 2 years about 19 points a game.
Mm-hmm. And, and this year, not not even 19
Mm-hmm.
points. No identity, the physicality, and I get it offensively in the offensive line. They've had some injuries, but overall, still um, hadn't played up to their capabilities. Do you agree or disagree?
No, I agree. I agree. There's a lot left to be desired. Um,
Mhm.
Southern University for the better part of the last decade has had one of the most dominant offensive lines, not only in HBCU football, but we're talking about in the country.
Mhm.
Chinnis Berry established that as the go-to, and the topic, the conversation around the SWAC is if you think that you can run the football, Southern can show you they can run the ball that much better. That culture from the offensive line standpoint, I'll be honest with you, it's not there anymore. I know there's been some injuries up front. They actually played a lot better on this past Saturday. But I think just consistently, Carlos, I think if you ask Jaguar Nation, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot left to be desired. And I'm gonna be honest with you, Carlos. At this particular point, you know better than I do. You've lost a certain percentage of the fan base that it's going to take you a really big win to get back.
And so with homecoming, we'll kind of move past that. It is
Mhm.
what it is, the opponent. Bethune Cookman on the road, who a team is from the outside looking in playing better than I thought they would. That's not an easy game. Then you go to Alcorn, and then you've got Prairie View and them at home, Texas Southern at
Mhm.
home. A lot of people's like, watch out, this is their year. Yeah, they could win majority of their games, every game on left on the schedule, and they could have some hiccups because, in my humble opinion, offensively, the inconsistency. Um, it kind of reminds me of when you're driving your automobile and the check engine light comes on, right?
Mhm.
It could be something major. It may not be. And if you continue to drive it, you'll find out whether it was major or not. Or if you do the smart thing, you go and get it checked out. It could be something minor. So, do you believe that? And listen to the press conferences. I don't expect him to be not confident, but he's confident that things can change, or they can get better, but you just don't see it. Now, from an offensive standpoint, again, defense played lights out to me. So,
Yeah.
where do you go from a fan's perspective? I mean, you still support them. I understand that, and support the team and the young men. But frustration. It really has been a frustrating season.
Man, frustrating is a nice way to put it, Carlos. I
Yeah, I understand.
that with this particular season, I think that the biggest thing is having this Lincoln game to be able to kind of correct some things and seeing what that looks like next week against Bethune Cookman. There's still
Mhm.
opportunity here, and that's the thing that I want the fan base to remember. There's opportunity here. Everything that you set your sights on at the beginning of the year, those goals are still attainable. And that's the most important thing. Now, how this football team and this coaching staff navigates that week to week to attaining those goals will go a long way to say how the fan base and Jaguar Nation feels about the 2023 season.
Charles.
BJ Jones, I'm looking at your face right now. I know you're never at a loss of words. This is one of the few times that I can look at you and tell that you're kind of at a loss of words for what's going on right now. I know you put a post out there about the booing and all of that. You worn that Columbia blue uniform, blood, sweat, and tears. I know it's got to be just tough and aggravating from your perspective because you know what this stuff should look like. Talk about that.
Oh man, conflicted to say the least, because man, these are my guys, man. Coach Dooley, Coach Graves, Coach Miller. These are my guys. And it's tough, it's difficult. You listen to people's frustration, and um, it's tough. But one of the things is hey, Coach Dooley will tell you, hey, when you come to Southern University, that taking that position comes with certain expectations.
Mm.
And right now, those expectations aren't being met. So that blowback is to be expected. And one of the things I tell people, hey, we are in the second week of October. All right, second weekend of October. Let's see how this thing plays out because you had people after the Jackson State game that was ready to burn the whole thing to the ground, and hey, let's just go ahead and just get the new regime in. And
Wow.
I tell people, hey man, just relax. Let's see how this thing plays out. I will say this: it, if I'm Coach Dooley, if I can get away with not having a press conference, I think that's the direction that I'll go. And the reason that I say this is if the answers that you've been given are the best answers that you can give at this
Mm.
point, just don't give in. Because one thing about this fan base, they may not know who's the X, who's the Y. They may not know what personnel that you lined up with a 21 personnel, but they know good and bad football when they see it. And when you try to come around and try to convince them what they saw was not bad football and that it was actually good, and that's what they hear press conference to press conference, it only makes it worse. This week, I've gotten clip after clip after clip after clip about Coach Dooley talking about FAMU dropping 8, which they didn't, not at any point during that last drive.
Hmm.
They didn't. But when you say that and you try to convince the fan base that it's something different than what they actually see, then that fan base then becomes adversarial towards you, and that's something that you don't want to happen with Jaguar Nation. So like I said, if I'm Coach Dooley, if I can get away with not having a press conference, that's the direction that I
Well, and unfortunately, BJ, I'm sure it's it's part of his duties. He's got to he's got to show up every week. Now,
go.
how I would do, I'm head coach Tony Brown. First question. Um, we lost a ball game that I thought we should have won. All the responsibility falls on me. You may get tired of hearing that because the buck stops with me. I'm not throwing anybody, and I'm not saying he is. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. I'm taking responsibility. I am the CEO of this program. We're not getting it done, and it's my fault. And that's how I would start off because, yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
fan base, look at that crowd last week, 17,000. I think that's generous. That's probably paid, but it didn't look like 17,000 to me. We've seen cases in this league. Jackson State, they made their voices heard by not coming to the stadium. So you don't want to get to that point, but let's just be honest. High expectations, 9-8 after 17 games. I didn't think it was going to be that.
Me
It's
either.
just me, PJ. And people can dress it up, put whipped cream on it, sprinkle it with cherries and nuts on it. It is what it is. Now, BJ, with that being said, the rest of the league, I've had people to tell me that overall, some of the teams look the same as they did at the end of last year. They don't see any big improvement. Are they way off base with that statement?
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say a lot of teams. There's some teams that I believe they have regressed. I think Alabama A&M is significantly worse this year than they were a year ago. I think Alabama State, for whatever reason, is worse this year. Now, a lot of that self-inflicted. I think they have a quarterback that's just choosing to go with the star power guy, and that's costing them some ball games. I think there's some improvements that have been made at Arkansas Pine Bluff. I think Valley is taking some steps back. With Alcorn, I think Alcorn the last few weeks have gotten better. I think for Southern, it's the same headache. It's offensively. What can you do? Southern has a championship level defense, and now it's offensively. They don't look in sync. All of that blame last year went to Bashawn McCray. Guess what? Bashawn McCray ain't on the roster anymore. So I think that's the thing. Grambling is definitely taking a step forward. I think Prairie View is improved. I think Texas Southern, without Andrew Body, is taking a step back. So I think the league looks a little bit different. I will say that FAMU is a class of the league. When you look at what they have on that defensive line, offensively, the skill position players, I think they're the class of the league. But they can be beaten. And Southern showed that a week ago. They can be beaten. Anybody in this league can be beaten on any given Saturday. And I think that's what's going to make this exciting over the latter October and November as we get into that part. We start positioning ourselves and that SWAC championship picture clears up. So I think the league looks it looks a little bit different, but some teams have taken steps back.
Well, BJ, now I'm going to bring Charles into this. I think I heard you say Alcorn has gotten better. I'm not going to argue with you, the football analyst, about that. But I will say one thing, one word comes to mind with me: lucky. Alcorn, Alabama State, Grambling. Who am I missing?
Prairie
Prairie.
I think about the cereal Lucky Charms. They, whatever mojo they got going, they very well could be one win. But they pulled it out.
Yeah. And look, I'll say this, BJ, about us. We're doing just enough. Just enough offense. With Aaron Allen, the offense looks different. We're pushing the ball down the field. Our running game has bogged down the last 3 games. That's something we didn't expect a month ago with Jarvion Howard and Nico Duffy. That running game, which has been consistent and really good over the years. Defensively, we're tops in the FCS in interceptions. That was put out there this week. Our defense, I think, has kind of exceeded expectations because we knew we were good, but they're off the charts, and they came up with a big interception last week. So our defense has really stepped up. Offensively, we look a little bit different. And BJ, you know this, and I think I've heard coaches say this over the last several weeks. I'd rather have an ugly win than a pretty loss. And right now, you're seeing some ugly wins all over the country, all over football, all over college football. I think you're seeing some ugly wins, but coaches will take them. And so I think that's just kind of where we are. I think, like you said, FAMU can be had. Absolutely. They're not Jackson State the last couple of years where they were just blowing teams off the map. And yeah, they had some challenges there, here and there, but they were really good. FAMU can be had. You just got to take it when you have the opportunity. So that's what makes this race on the West so wild. And Southern, look, I'd rather be Southern than us. We don't control our own fate, Carlos and BJ. We got to hope Prairie View drops one. Now, Prairie View has a tough challenge. They got to go to FAMU on their home. I think it's their homecoming. It's already a sellout. They go to Baton Rouge. I'm not going to sit here and say that and if Prairie View wins those two games, they most likely, I think, will win the Western Division because those are two tough games. But they got a tough road. They got a tough road to hoe. So I'd rather be in Southern's position where if you handle your business, you're going to the championship game. We need to handle our business and hope something else happens. So I would rather be in that position rather than where we are right now. And just, UAPB on their homecoming, we hadn't played on their homecoming since 1966. That's not going to be easy there. Coach Hampton's a very fiery coach. That team comes out fired up. Hey, we get behind the 8-ball on the road with a packed house. We can't afford another loss. So this Western Division race is wide open. Grambling looked really good last week. They self-inflicted wounds hurt them. Their punter took a knee, gave us good field position for us to go in and get that score. Grambling is a team you got to watch out for in the West too. They got a homecoming game this week, and if they get back on track, Grambling could be a tough out. So I think there's nothing easy in this Western Division race. Anything can happen. Even the 2-loss teams, you can't exactly count them out. You don't know what Southern's going to look like. Bodies out. If you're a 2-loss team, especially with everyone with a loss, you're not exactly out of it either. So it's going to be a lot of jostling for position here in these next 6-7 weeks.
There's a excellent question. EA say, if Dooley gets Southern to the SWAC championship game for a second year in a row, is that a success? Do they win or lose? EA?
That's big. Do you win the championship? Yeah, do you win it or lose it?
If they get there, I guess my expectation, maybe not realistic. It's real high. Southern is a standard. No, it's not a success. If they get to the championship and they lose it, no. That's just me. BJ, you may feel differently.
I'm with you. You got there last year. You got there last year, and you saw it, Carlos. When the last time we went to Jackson as Jaguar Nation, and you saw that few fans from Southern show up? People were dejected last year just because of who was behind center, and people just decided, I'm not going to Jackson to subject myself to that. What does the fan base feel like? How does the fan base feel? What has happened between the time now, and the SWAC championship game? Because, like I said, you got to win some games to win people back, and it's not going to be against Lincoln. Was that 9-8 record, Carlos? Okay, take away Florida Memorial, take away Edward Waters, and take away some of those sub D1 wins, and then where does that leave you? Like it's man, you gotta beat some people. If you can get Alcorn, that could possibly help. You get Prairie View again, that could possibly help. But if you lose them, man, folks are going to be all the way off, and that's when there's going to be a lot of questions swirling around Baton Rouge.
I'll be honest, BJ and Charles. I think anything less than a SWAC championship, I think fans will still be disappointed. Hell, I think if you ask Coach Dooley, he was disappointed. He said last season, getting to the championship and a 7-5 record. So, maybe it's unrealistic. I don't think so. I mean, your slogan says you are the standard. So that means excellence. So you need to get things done.
So what you're saying is that Atlanta or bust is basically what Jaguar Nation feels. If you don't make that trip to Atlanta, it's a disappointment.
I know I will say that. I said it last year. I said it this year. And guess what? I'll say it next year, 2024. How about that, smarty pants? I mean, maybe that's arrogance on my part. Maybe not being realistic. But that's the way I feel every year. And I get people who say, well, I told you, I predicted 6-5, 7-4. I don't care. I'm going to always predict 9 wins or better. That's my expectations. That's my standards. And hopefully they'll get there. But to answer the question, nope. It's not successful to me. Success will be getting to the SWAC championship and winning it. And it will probably be on the road again. Probably.
Yeah.
If they get there, it will be. So, hey, we shall see. Offensively, we talked about offense. Defensively, you see some stout teams in the conference. BJ, Southern Family 1 and 2. You can put Alabama State in that top 3, and then right behind them is an Alcorn State defense. But it's interesting. Out of those teams I've mentioned, all of them are kind of struggling offensively. Even last week, FAMU, the guest we had on, talked about FAMU supporters were not totally happy with Musa and offensively. But last week, he threw for 325 yards, albeit I think you saw a defense for Southern that was tired.
Yeah.
And not just from the FAMU game, but they're on the field a lot because of,
they are
inconsistent. And you're seeing the results of that from game 1 to game 5.
Yeah, all right, Carlos. And one thing that I noticed about this defense, they don't force turnovers.
No.
They don't force turnovers.
I think they got 5 so far.
Yeah. I noticed about the defensive backs watching them, they don't break on the ball, which frustrates the bejesus out of me. I would like to see them a little bit more, be more aggressive, going to get the football, breaking on the ball. It seems like we see the ball coming and decide to position ourselves behind the receiver in order to make the tackle instead of being, aggressive and attacking the football. So that's not a completion. But other than that, man, this defense, man, they've played well the entire year. Could you imagine if Southern did not have one of the top rated defenses in the conference, what this season may look like? Man, so defensively, oh man, defensively, man, they playing well, man. Coach Miller and Coach Graves, the entire staff, Boo Boo Miller and that group, Coach Wallace, they're doing an amazing job over there. Hopefully, the second half of the season, the offense will show up as well. But I tell you what, when you talk about breaking on the ball, if you've not watched the Alcorn State defensive backs play this year, man, all of them back there will go and get it, and they go and get it like they're the receiver. They give you the one hand interceptions and some of those other things. I really like that group that y'all got back there, Charles, and with Florida A&M, the interior defensive line, you can't move them. Like they are not to be moved. The linebackers are solid. I actually think that this FAMU defense is better than they were a year ago. They are that stout. So I think when you've always been told, hey, when the weather changes and we get to this point of the season, he who can run the ball and play the best defense usually is going to be the person that holds up that trophy. We're going to see how that works because FAMU hadn't been able to run the football. And that's something that's very concerning for them.
Yeah, because they were held to a low point last week. It's just interesting to see how all of this will play out defensively. Also, force of turnovers. Now against UAPB, they got 4, but prior to then, they only had 1. And then also getting off the field on third downs, like third and longs, that can be better for Southern University But overall, you're right. Defensively, they've done enough, well more than enough to get
Mm-hmm.
things done. So with that being said, BJ, from an analyst standpoint, this team represents the West, or it's still up in the air for you? Tell
No,
our
it's,
Southern
it,
first.
it's still up in the air. I mean, talent wise, Southern has as much talent as anybody else in the conference. That was
Mhm.
evident based on you saw the preseason all conference teams. There's a lot of talent on this football team. I think this team represents the West if we get the improvements that we need offensively. That starts up front. It starts with some of the decision making by the quarterback. Harold Blood has played. He's played okay, but there's been some opportunities where he's done some things that's kind of left in desire. Hey, will you pull down the ball and go and get that first down?
Mhm.
Will you be more aggressive? So doing things like that. So I think that Southern has the entire season in front of them, and that's what I want to keep nailing home to Jaguar Nation. Um, the entire season is in front of you, but I think next Saturday, Carlos, that Bethune Cookman game going to Jacksonville scares the bejesus out of me because how well the Bethune Cookman plays defensively, they can really cause trouble for you. Offensively, not so much, but defensively, if you turn the ball over and give them some short fields, now you find yourself playing in the hole. With that defense, you don't want to find yourself trailing against that defense. So it goes week to week. Once you get done with that, it's Texas Southern on the 28th. Alcorn on November the 4th. Prairie View, after that. So week to week. So we'll see how this plays out.
Um, quickly, BJ, I want to go in the chat room. Once a comment from EA, but why? A serious question from the panel. Why does Southern struggle at home? I think if you actually look at it, I like to break that up, break it up. They've had a good record at home. It's just against the upper level teams at home
Mm-hmm.
is where they have struggled. Now you can put Alcorn. We talked about earlier. Defeated Alcorn. And Southern's actually defeated Alcorn 2 years in a row. Coach Rollins, the interim coach. The games that they're quote unquote supposed to win or favored to win, they've done well. It's just teams that are of equal value or better, they've struggled. And they, to be honest with you, they've kind of struggled on the road somewhere too. Beat UAPB, but it's those upper those very good teams. They've struggled, and then I think if you look at the record, it will point it out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the way I look at it. You feel differently about that, BJ?
No, I think you hit it on the head. You look at where those home losses have come from. FAMU this year, Jackson State this year. So it's who you play at home, and that has an impact. That has an impact. You have the inexplicable loss to Alabama State, the one that we may scratch our heads over until next year, Carlos. Um, but I think that Jackson State loss hurt in a multitude of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest reason that they lost hurt is because you had a sold out crowd. You had a crowd that was willing to put last year behind them, to even put the week before behind them, and to lose that game the way that we lost that ball game. There's a lot of people that were in that crowd. I'm gonna be honest with you, they ain't coming back. Like
Mm.
they ain't coming back. You know as well as I do, Carlos. You probably heard from some of them all. They have told you that they're not coming back. So and it's going to take something big. You're going to have to do something big to get them back. And I'm not saying that it can't be done. I would love for it to be done. I'm rooting for it to be done. So I think that that's something huge. I think once you do that big thing, then you turn Mumford Stadium back to what it should be, and you get those people back into Mumford Stadium.
So almost Charles sounds like short of running the table, and also EA says, I'm gonna paraphrase, you get to the SWAC championship 2 years in a row and you don't win, that's not successful? No. That's my opinion. I may be in a minority on that. I don't know. But I can only speak for myself.
I that's got me a little baffled on that.
Why?
Because I think that winning, and Landon Bussey says this, I'm quoting him, winning is hard. Winning is hard. And you go to 2 straight championship games, and I think the level of expectation for Southern football is so high to where it is Atlanta or bust. And so I get it. And I think the SWAC is so much up for grabs this year. I think if Southern got there and didn't get it done, considering the uncertainty of the league, minus AMU a little bit, they're the best team in the league. If you win, you're gonna probably play them again in Tallahassee. I do think the frustration would be there because the uncertainty is there from the fans. Like, this conference is up for grabs, you can't take it. Now, last couple of years it's been Jackson State. Well, this year it ain't exactly Jackson State, even though they're very much in the mix. They need FAMU to stumble. So I think that's what would probably tick a lot of Southern fans off. And I think Alcorn fans, to be quite honest, because the West is so far up for grabs. And hey, all we got to do is just be consistent. And so far it's been back and forth. We won 2 in a row. Ain't been pretty. Excuse my grammar. Ain't been pretty, but we'll take it. And I think that's probably what would upset Southern fans if they didn't get to the championship game, because this uncertainty of the league. There's no one dominant team. You just got to show up for 60 minutes and get it done. And they have not. And I'll say this, Carlos, I love the Jaguar Nation. I love it. I love Baton Rouge. I love everything about Southern University athletics. I love it. I love it.
Here it comes, BJ.
Here it comes.
Here it comes.
Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. But it's just, to me, as from my perspective, when it comes to these big games and big moments at home, to me, it just seems like Southern tenses up a little bit. They are a little timid. Now, against the others, they let it fly. Against the Prairie Views, against the Texas Southerns. And yeah, they beat Alcorn 2 years in a row. But the big games that really say, you know what? Southern can get this thing done. They don't get it done. Jackson State this year, FAMU this year. 2 years ago, Jackson State at home. The big games, the ones that really are going to attract the attention and give you the wow factor at home. And it's not a dig. It's not a dig on the Jaguar Nation at all. It's kind of the truth. And so I made that challenge last week. It wasn't a dig. It was a challenge. Let's see if Southern can show up at home against the best of the best. Didn't happen. So now the questions continue. Now, I do feel, BJ, I feel very confident. I'm confident in Southern on the road, of course, with the exception of Alcorn. When their backs are against the wall, when no one gives them a chance, somehow Southern rises up on the road. UAPB, even though UAPB's got a first-year coach and all that. But it seems to me Southern, in my opinion, from my vantage point, they seem to play better on the road when their backs are against the wall, when people are saying, you know what, y'all ain't going to get this thing done. And they get it done. And I don't know why that's the case, but more times than not, to me, they have gotten it done on the road. So that's why I feel confident, even against Bethune. I think that's one of them games they can blow the doors off of it. Bethune's got a coach that came in late, even though they're a little bit better, more structured. I think Southern will go to Jacksonville and get it done. So that's just my opinion when it comes to Southern football and the big games in terms of the question that was asked. It just seems like in these big moments and big games at home when the lights are brightest at Mumford, it just seems like they just are a little timid, nervous, tense. It's just different to me.
I tell you what, if you get a football team, Charles, that goes to Jacksonville and blows the doors off of Bethune-Cookman, and then comes back home October 28th and handles Texas Southern relatively easy, then you'll get Jaguar Nation full in effect on the train again coming to Alcorn November the 4th. Like that's exactly how it will play out. And what happens there remains to be seen. But if those two things happen, and because it only takes a little bit to get people back on the train now. When they jump off the train, they don't jump all the way off. They say it, but they don't really jump all the way off.
Exactly.
But if those two things happen, and November 4th is going to be big, and I'm talking Orca big.
Well, I'm not as confident. My confidence has been challenged a little bit, but we'll see. And Charles, I hopefully you put that same challenge out to Alcorn.
Oh, absolutely.
Who I feel, hey, I know it's better to be lucky than good sometimes, but BJ, oh, how it could turn. And I hear from Alcorn fans, Coach McNair can put up on his mantle what he's done. Well, they got people want to run him out.
Yeah. People are not. I'll say this, BJ. And I've talked to Braves fans.
Would you weigh more?
Braves fans, even though we won on homecoming, it was a big win over Grambling, a packed house. People are still uneasy, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, there are no questions. 10 interceptions, we get after it, and you talked about it. You broke it down defensively. But offensively, and I just think we're just different right now. We're a different offensive team. It's more pass first, pass second, until we get our running game going. We have had 3 straight games in which I don't think we've had 75 yards rushing. Who would have thought that a month ago with Jarvion Howard, Agent Zero, and our running game? So we're kind of a different team now offensively than we were a month ago. And so far, we're fighting. We're just doing enough to win games. And, and at this point, midway through, with injuries and issues and other stuff, if you can find a way, no matter how ugly it might be, you'll take it. And I said this, I'd rather be in Southern's position in terms of the standings rather than be in our position. And so you got everything in front of you. And I know, Carlos, you're not happy, but I tell you what, that Southern game to this day, and I said in the first hour, BJ, that Southern Alcorn game scares the heck out of me because I do think the Jaguars will roll in there. They're going to bring 15,000 or whatever, and they're going to play lights out because they're on the road and no one, people are saying, y'all not going to go down on the reservation and beat them. You didn't beat them in the 2 years of the SWAC championship game, all that other stuff. People are going to feel like you're not going to get it done. And somehow they rise up out of the ashes. And that's the one that worries me. That's down the road. We still got UAPB. We still got Valley. But that one worries me right now. And as I'm sitting here thinking about it on the bye week.
Well, I'll be looking at next week. Next week will tell us something. A loss in Jacksonville, you won't see 15,000 in Lorman. You won't see 10,000. Mark my words. Win the week. I don't count this week. I'm looking more of next week. We shall see. BJ, we got to get you back. We got to work up another contract, I guess. To, get you back. I appreciate you and coach, former player. You can give us a perspective a little, different than my perspective, my opinion. My opinion, I'm frustrated. I don't hide that fact. I let it show. And I still stand by it. Anything less than a championship, it's a disappointment. Will I wake up? Hopefully I will the next morning. Will I be back as a supporter? I won't be back. I'm always a supporter. I'm still going to be a supporter, win, lose, or draw. But it's just, a frustrating time. And hopefully things will get better. Because what? Southern is the standard. And that applies to every sports team. And that goes to the CEO of the athletic department and the president as well, the board. If Southern is a standard, then let's hold that standard high. And let's do all the things that we can do to keep that standard there. And if those who fall short in doing that, we thank them for trying. and then we move to another direction. That's just the way it is. That's life. But don't give up. We shall see. BJ, enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll talk again real soon.
All right, Carlos, thank you for having me on, man. It's a pleasure talking to you and Charles, man. I missed y'all fellas, man.
Well, we'll give you a call next week because
Okay.
you can analyze this game and uh, what's going on in the conference. Got some big games coming up this week and some recaps next week. So we'll get you back next week. How about that?
All right, man. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Appreciate it. BJ Jones of Inside HBCU Football doing some other things as far as podcasts. Oh, boy. People are saying, come on, Carlos. I am what I am. I'm a fighter. I'm a fighter. I'm sorry. And the Alcorn fans and the Jackson State fans, let me say this. Jackson State fans that I talked to, hell, they were disappointed not winning the Celebration Bowl for 2 years in a row. Alcorn fans, we can't win in the Celebration Bowl. So to be successful, you have to accept failure. I get that. But speaking of success and failure, he's been probably holding on. He's probably left now. Hopefully he's back. Coach Pettaway will join us. He can bring some calming energy to me because I'm in the frustrated mode. Oh, but Charles, I did see the Miami Heat. It's only exhibition. I just like that team. They just hard fought. The culture. When you at the end of that game, you may win, but you know you've been in the battle. I'll take that. The physicality. They get to the finals, 4 times in the last 7 or 8 years? Am I happy? Yes. But I'm also sad because they didn't bring home the title. But they're still my team for life. Southern for life. Coming up next, Coach Vann Pettaway. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app. As we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Before we get to Coach Pettaway, just want to encourage you, the Blue and Gold Century Club, they're sponsoring a trip to Jacksonville next week, October the 21st. The cost is $200, which includes game ticket, refreshments, and a ton of fun. Hotel costs $138. For more information, contact Craig Pierre at 225-324-7234. The Blue and Gold Century Club, a proud sponsor of the Coles Brown Show. Also, like and subscribe not only to the Black College Sports Network, but the Coles Brown Show. Hit that thumbs up, that like button. We would appreciate it. Now, with that being said, we'll bring in Coach Pettaway. Maybe Coach Pettaway can cool my disappointing spirit. Coach Pettaway,
Hey, good morning.
afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Carlos. Yeah, man, it's just that time of the year where all football fans are frustrated if their teams are not doing, the way we as fans expect them to do. I'm disappointed. We're coming out of Mobile where we didn't play well against Jackson State. So, that's all around the country where fans are frustrated because going into the year, we all felt like our team would be the team that would be on top, and it's just not happening. But in your case now down at Southern, you all still have your goals in front of you. They still got a chance to win the West and still represent the West in the championship game. So you all just, when I say you all, I'm talking about the Jag Nation. They just got to take a chill pill and continue to support the players. You got to support those players because they're putting on that uniform for the university and for all of you all. So they need your support.
I would agree with that. They do need to support, continued support. You're absolutely right. And at the end of the day, Coach Pettaway, sometimes it's amazing how things will work itself out. It'll work its way out. If someone comes to me about, buying out contracts, nope, I don't want to talk about that. That is just so early. That is so early. But now, I will grant you, when you talk about being disappointment, you're allowed to be disappointed.
Right.
Constructive criticism, that's okay. Opinions are that. The facts are also the facts. And right now, this Southern University football team with so much high expectations have struggled. They have an opportunity to still reach their goals, as everyone on this panel have stated. But fans are fanatics. Alums are alums, and they're going to be with you no matter what. So hopefully this thing will turn around. It's interesting. We still have the goals in front of Southern University. I say, wait. And yet I'm frustrated like many of the Jaguar Nation. So, wow. I guess the Jaguar Nation is a tough sell. But I think all fans, all alums are like that. We got to get it done. We expect championships every year. No, you're not going to get it, Coach Pettaway.
Right.
But seeking perfection is always a goal, and seeking championships. With that being said, last week you were in Mobile and came out with basketball predictions. After you've been able to look at them again a week later, let's talk a little bit about that quickly. Last week we said that, hey, we could be nitpicky, but overall, I think everybody is kind of satisfied with those preseason predictions.
Right. On the women's side, you can only go one way. That's Jackson State. I mean, they until somebody just knocks them off that perch for the regular season title, you have to pick them with all the players that they have coming back. And then we all know Coach does a great job down there. So Jackson State on the women's side, I think was the right choice. And like I said, the only thing that I really thought about was the Arkansas Pine Bluff as number 3. Mm-hmm. And I guess because of the Twin Towers, they feel like Pine Bluff will be back in there. I know they made that run to the SWAC tournament championship, but I'm not so sure. The jury's out on them. They're gonna have to show me something in the preseason for me to think that they'll be there at the end. And I think here in Huntsville with
Coach Richardson. I think adding Coach Murray to her staff is really going to help them because, he's a guy that's been there. He's done that. He knows what it takes to win in the SWAC. And so I'm hoping, and in fact, I just saw him the other day. I'm hoping that his experience will help her to get over the hump because she can put together a pretty good regular season. They just haven't found a way to get it done in the tournament yet. So I'm looking forward to that on the women's side. So I think, Charles, you probably think that the order of finish. Do you agree with the way they picked the women's order of finish?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think Jackson State, in the regular season, they've just been awesome, and no one has really challenged them. And so that's the one thing that I was kind of saying, who do they feel like could challenge Jackson State, during the regular season. And I agree, UAPB has got a much improved team. One thing Dawn Brown can do. What can Brown do for you, Dawn Brown? What can Dawn Brown do? She can recruit.
Yeah.
She can go out and get that talent. Now, making it mesh is a whole nother story. And so that's where you got to have, like you said, Coach Pettaway, the veteran assistants that kind of know how to make that mesh. I think, Coach Freddie Murray, at Alabama A&M was a great pickup for Coach Richards. I mean, Coach Murray was a really good coach, by the way. I think just being caught up in administration change, new AD, I kind of knew after they lost that SWAC tournament game last year, I kind of felt like, I hate to say it, but I kind of felt like that was probably going to be the end of the road for Coach Murray. You kind of felt that as a Grambling-ite, kind of felt that was going to happen, and it did, unfortunately. But Coach Murray's a real good dude, real good guy, knows the game. Yep. So I don't have a problem with the order of finish. For us, we've got a different team. I tease Coach Kilbert all the time, Carlos, man, can I book my reservations for Birmingham for the SWAC tournament? Because it's hard for me to believe that we're one of the 4 worst teams in the last couple of years with Destiny Brown all preseason coming in this year and all that. But, we got to find a way to get over that hump. But I don't have an issue with the women's side of it. It's just a matter of who's going to challenge Jackson State during the regular season. That's the one question I have.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good because if you look at it, a lot of times it's predictions kind of influencing factors. What happened at the end of last year, right? JSU in the tournament championship, regular season champ, the team that knocked them off on that wild miracle shot, right? Southern University. There too. I agree with that. Pine Bluff made it to the semifinals, right? Number 3. So win the SWAC tournament championship, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right about that?
Now, Pine Bluff lost to Jackson State. They were the 8th seed last year on the women's side. They lost to Jackson State. They played them tough.
Yeah.
They played them tough, but they did lose to Jackson State in the first round of the tournament game last year. But they had the talent, though.
I don't know why I thought Southern defeated Pine Bluff. I don't know. Oh, I was in error there.
But Dawn Brown's teams, they're always going to be right there. I mean, she's got the talent. It's just, for some teams, it's getting it done in the regular season. Others, as we know, Coach Pettaway, the tournament's a whole nother animal.
Right. Yeah.
Throw the regular season out the window. We won the regular season the last 2 years, and we lost to the 8th seed Texas Southern on the men's side again. And so it's about, can you get it done when the lights are brightest in SWAC basketball, and that's the SWAC tournament. But I don't have a problem with the order of finish. Again, I also look at the voters who's voting. There's only 2 groups of folks voting for these things: the SIDs in the conference and the SWAC coaches. They have the votes. Now, you and I, we don't have a vote. I'm pushing for that, Coach Pettaway. I do think media members that cover these teams should have a vote, but that's going to take the coaches to change their mindsets on that, and there's got to be some politicking and lobbying behind the scenes to make that happen. The commissioners told me that if the coaches vote for it, he will immediately sign it and there won't be any questions asked. Normally legislation goes up the flagpole, the chancellors and presidents and all that. It won't go that high, but you have to do some lobbying behind the scenes. Because I do think for some of us who watch these things, other than the SIDs and coaches, I think we can put a good ballot together. I'd like to see that personally, just my opinion. but it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of attitude changing for that to happen.
Right. Well, Charles, I'm like you. I would love to be able to put my 2 cents in there and have it to count. And I think the coaches should really look at that, man, so they can get a true picture of what the media thinks about the SWAC teams. And then on the men's side, they picked Texas Southern to win it. I was a little with that. I was based on what Texas Southern did during the regular season. Yeah, they caught fire and won the tournament, but during the regular season, they didn't do as well. So I'm trying to figure out, and with all the people they lost, with Walker and all those guys no longer there, what are the coaches seeing and the SID seeing in Texas Southern that will give them the number 1 seed or the number 1 pick? I mean, I understand about tradition, but if you look at the body of work, they didn't gel until toward the end of last season, and then they had that streak during the tournament. I just didn't see that one. That was a head scratcher to me, Charles. But now Grambling and Alcorn, yes, they should be up there. I think their body of work over the last couple of years have proven, and with the people that they got coming back, it is proven that they should be up there. And then, the Grambling in second, they got Jalen Johnson down there now. Coach Jackson will know how to use that kid now.
Yeah,
that was one of the better players in this league. He played his years here at A&M, and then he hit the portal, but now he's down at Grambling. And if that kid is healthy, he's going to be a force now in the paint. He can play, and I think Coach Jackson is one of the people that can probably dig inside that kid and get him back to performing as an all-conference player. So, and then having Jackson State at 4th, evidently they got some new people in there that the coaches feel like Coach Williams will have Jackson State up there. And I just feel like Prairie View is at 6 is too low. I think with Coach Smith having that championship pedigree, I think with what he has coming back, I just think people are sleeping on Prairie View, and I think they'll be a team that you got to look out for.
Well, I'll say this, Coach, to answer your question. I do think, as far as the voters are concerned, whether SIDs and coaches, I think we're comfortable. You guys are comfortable with how last year went. And typically you go with the team that won last year. And unless you see a complete roster overhaul, you typically go with that team again. Now, that may not be right, but, you look at Johnny Jones and his pedigree. You got P.J. Henry coming back. Right. P.J. Henry was hurt for a lot of last year. They started 0-5 for the first time, 0-5 in conference for the first time in 60 years, from what the SID told me there when we played there. And so for them to come out of the ashes like they did and win the whole thing, to win the tournament, was something I don't think anybody expected. So I think that's probably the reason why. I think the Braves being picked 3, we lost quite a bit last year. We're building, and Landon Bussey told me this is his best team that he's had since he's been at Alcorn. He told me that to my face and didn't even flinch when he told me that. So that's kind of scary if things work out there. Right. I just think, for Prairie View, I think for Coach Smith, he's a really good coach, but I think he's lost a lot. Jeremiah Gambrell, who's at Prairie View, is at Alcorn. He's had some players transfer out of there, hit the portal. And I think, maybe some coaches see that, maybe not quite the same as it once was, even though his teams are usually competitive. And then Coach Jackson at Grambling, he's just steady Eddie.
Yep.
I mean, Carlos, I keep saying this. Grambling won the regular season in a year they were even not even eligible to go to the postseason. They won the regular season, they were ineligible. I mean, that says a lot about that program and that coach there. So he's always going to have some talent. He's always going to be there. So I don't have a problem, with the men's side of it. I do think there's some up and coming teams. I think George Ivory of Mississippi Valley, look out for that 2-3 zone. You better knock down some shots, because that's George Ivory. He said that zone is going to travel from Pine Bluff to Valley. So look out for that. So I do think Bethune, Reggie Theus, they're going to make a little bit of hay, but in the postseason, they seem to tumble. I think FAMU is going to be a little bit improved. But, overall, you kind of know the top dogs. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Kevin Johnson's going to do at Southern University, Carlos. That's going to be an interesting situation there. Is he a top 5 program? Can he elevate it to the next level? We'll see. And talking with him, it looks like he does. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the men's side shakes up.
Right.
No pressure on Coach Johnson. Yeah. None whatsoever in the first year.
Yeah.
First year.
My goodness.
You gotta build that foundation on that house.
I agree.
If the foundation is not good, wait a minute, I get a bad rep now. Wait a minute. Now, year 4, that's a different story. Because Coach Pettaway, we know where the program is. And you want to see each year get better. And if you're building, you're building. If you're just staying on the ground floor for 3 years, you're not going upwards.
I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
But look at what you just said. You just said year 3 and year 4.
That's basketball.
That's not what I'm used to hearing from Jag Nation. Now, I've never known you all to be that patient. And then if we were to flip the script, in football, this is year 2 for Coach Dooley, and the moving truck is already around the corner. I don't understand.
You know why?
The moving truck is already around the corner from his house, and this is only year 2. This is only year 2.
I think, too, if you come in and you say, I only promise 2 things, to show up and play hard. You set yourself up sometimes when you come in and you say, I'm going to have a offense that's attract me on the football field. And then when it doesn't happen, it's like, to me, another example, you're courting a girl and you promise all these things and you say this going to happen and it doesn't happen. Oh boy, you're in trouble. You're in trouble.
But Carlos, with the track analogy, hold up now. In track and field, you got the sprints, and then you got the longer races. So he's just running a marathon right now. So it's still a form of track. It's just not the 100 and the quarter mile. That's all it is.
Coach Pettaway, his times are not good right now to be in the top level.
Right. That's true. That's
true.
But
I get it. I understand, and but it's just high expectation. But I think all fan bases have that. At least the fan bases in the upper echelon, your Jackson States, your Alcorns, your Gramblins, and the FAMUs. Oh, high expectations. And if they're not met, you're going to get blowback.
But I also think the blowback comes from your initial presentation. All right. So Coach Sanders, of course, when he came in, do you believe, and had the big press conference and had the big announcement and all that smoke that came from that, the expectation that you got to hit the ground sprinting, not running. And when it doesn't happen, then there's blowback. Right. I think for Coach Dooley, it might have been kind of the same thing. But when you come in kind of low key and just say, look, we're going to build this thing one brick at a time. Now, it doesn't excite the fan base. It's boring. And, fans want to hear the sizzle. They want to see this. But we know the sizzle most of the time doesn't occur right away. And I think fans are a little more patient when that happens. But when you hit the ground sprinting and you say you're going to do all this and all that and all this, and it doesn't happen, in the social media era that we're in the podcast era that we're in the talk show era that we're in, people going to keep receipts on that stuff. And it sometimes it comes back to bite you. So how you come in, you can get a little more time and be a little more patient. The fan base will be. But if you come in, hey, I think Kevin Johnson's coming in. I think he said all the right things.
Right.
But the only thing is he inherited a team that was top 4, top 5 from last year. So now it's like, all right, coach, the roster was pretty good last year. Now, what are you going to do? You going to elevate, or is it going to take a dip? And if it takes too big of a dip, then that's when I'm sure the Jaguar Nation is going to say, hold up now. Hey, you had a pretty good team.
Right.
You had a pretty good team before you came. Now, I mean, we understand that it's going to get blown up a
Rightfully
little
so.
bit.
I don't have no argument with that.
Yeah.
But if he takes a roster that he has now, he's added some pieces, and he does well.
Right.
Then the expectations have been moved up. Correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just like him, his personality, and looking at his bio and his resume, I think he's going to do well.
Right. I think we're in for some exciting times in SWAC basketball. I did get an opportunity to listen to both the men and women on media day. I thought the coaches all did a good job. No one stuck their chest out and beat their chest and say, "Hey, we are the team." They're gradually trying to get into the season. And I think in basketball, you have to do that because of the non-conference schedule.
Yeah.
You're playing scheduled games. That was the big key. Everybody had to explain why they were playing all these teams in the non-conference schedule. And we already know the answer to that before that question is even asked.
But what did they say?
They have to play those games to help the budget. That's a budgetary requirement for these coaches, and when it comes to men and now women's basketball, because some of the women teams are getting pretty good guarantees also when they play. So you're not going to have the great non-conference records, and that's just like I think somebody said something a little bit earlier. It's a shame that the SWAC regular season doesn't mean as much. Now, that's from the fans' perspective. We as coaches, we want that regular season SWAC championship. It does. It means a lot to us and the players now. They want to be crowned as conference champs. But you know that you can only get to the big dance by winning that tournament, because all you got is that automatic. But that regular season, I think it means more to the players and to the coaches than sometimes to the fans, because they want to see you in the big dance, and there's only one way to get there.
Right.
That's to win that automatic. Right.
Yeah.
And the other thing, Carlos, I mean, coaches get fired on that stuff too now. I mean,
right.
There has, and we've talked, and I know you've talked about the non-conference record, but I can't remember one single coach in the SWAC that's been fired in November and December, despite going 0-13, 0-12 in non-conference. The earliest I can remember a SWAC coach getting fired in conference, and maybe somebody can correct me here, but Byron Rim III, remember the coach at Prairie View? Right. He got fired 6 games in the conference. He was 1-5. And I think
might have been something else going on.
Yeah, right. 6 games in, a third of the way in the conference, things weren't going well. And so that's the earliest I can remember a coach being let go just based on wins and losses. So coaches are not going to be I'll say this, coaches in this league are not going to get fired November and December, despite the poor record. Is what you don't do in the regular season and the high expectations that you don't live up to in the tournament that will probably get you gone in the SWAC, to me. Now, I might be wrong about that, but it just seems that's kind of the way it kind of flows in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. We understand. Coach Pettaway understands. He was told, you got to bring in a certain amount of money.
Right.
He had to give up a guarantee game to get the seatbacks over there at Elmore.
Right.
But I bet you one thing. I bet you Coach Pettaway got some, what's the word I'm looking for? He didn't take it lightly. Well, I bet you Coach Pettaway went in there and say, well, look, I'm going to do this, but hey, this is not right. We've talked about this enough. Don't get my blood pressure up, Charles. Again, talking about those non-conference. They shouldn't be fired based on that, because they're doing somebody a favor.
Right.
Who would that be, the favor they're doing? The ADs.
Right.
And I went back and looked at the comments, and I think it was EA. Spot on. If they're going to have to play those many doggone guarantee games, his agent should put in that contract, I should get a certain percentage of that.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. That's not right, but it's the way of the world. And I will never, ever accept those type of non-conference schedules. Coach Pettaway talked about it, A.D. Brown. You got to have some compromise. Why would you do your student athletes that?
Right.
Why would you do that? 10 or 12 games on the road. And then once again, you come in and then you're going to tell those fans you have to be excited. And if you're not excited by a 2-12 record, then shame on you. You're not loyal. That's a lie. They're loyal, but you're asking them to do something that they shouldn't do. And come on, ADs, we can do better. 4 games at a max, and the rest play with.
Right. Now, Carlos, see, you need to be an athletic director, and then I'll come out of retirement.
I'll get fired. They will pick Charles. They will pick Charles over
tomorrow, man. I'll be out tomorrow.
Coach Pettaway, you talk about a hard, and I'm going to use a political word here, hardliner.
Yeah,
Carlos Brown would be a hardliner.
Yeah,
AD.
I know.
Oh, I'd be fair. I'd be fair. But I'm a fight for my coaches, and you're not going to tell my coach. I'm not going to tell them they got to play that many non-conference games. Those guaranteed. And by the way, speaking of that, SWAC announces a Pac-12 SWAC legacy. Now that's a good thing. You play 2 or 3 of those type of games.
And some of them at home. Some of them will be coming. I think Alabama State's hosting one of those. I think we're on the rotation for next year, I believe. So we'll
Well, that's what I was about to
next
ask
year.
Charles. When are the other teams going to get involved? You just said it next year.
Yeah.
Because I know Alabama A&M has not been a part of it yet. So
Yeah. I think it's on a rotating basis. So some teams are in, and then some will rotate off, and then I think we're going to be in that next year.
Yeah. Well, Michael says Coach Johnson is not inheriting a bare cupboard. His first season expansion will be more than expected. Probably personally, Coach Johnson will expect more, but I'm giving him, believe it or not, a grace period. Probably 2 years. Well, Melanie's not going to give us a grace period. We got 9 minutes left, and there's no grace period in that. But believe it or not, I put every coach until otherwise proven otherwise. Now, see, Coach Pettaway,
right?
We have him come in.
Right. See, and then mental health is a big issue now. They need to think about that when they send these kids out there like that for 11, 12 games in a row on the road. That's a mental strain on those kids now. Believe it or not. Because
that's the argument, Coach Pettaway. Now,
right.
I guess what I argue or is against is how many.
Correct.
I'm not saying don't play any, but
and I'm the same way.
Yeah, 4 against.
I think it's a necessity to play some. The other thing I like to see across the board that when these teams go out and play, a percentage of that money goes back into the program. Help those coaches make their program solid by allowing them to have money that they can use for recruiting, they can use for equipment. There are always needs on the college campuses for these basketball programs. Make sure that their needs are met up front because they are sacrificing by going out there playing those games. Don't take all the money and put it in the general fund. Drop a nugget out there for the athletic department and that particular team that's going out there. I think that's only fair, man. I think it's only fair.
Yeah. Well, somebody's texting me. They was like, Charles will be an AD before I will. You're absolutely, you're absolutely right. He will be because I'm out of the box. But anyway, let's SWAC recap quickly. We got about 5 minutes left. It was Alabama State last week in football over Bethune-Cookman 19-14. It was JSU over Alabama A&M 45-30. It was Alcorn State in another late-minute win over Grambling State University 25-24. Of course, in Baton Rouge, FAMU over Southern 26-19. They are who we thought they were. and we let them off the hook.
All right, Denny Green.
You remember that one? And then Prairie View A&M over Mississippi Valley State 31-12. This week, October the 14th, Mississippi Valley State and UAPB. Bethune-Cookman hosting Texas Southern University. That's 2 p.m. on HBCU Go TV. It's Jackson State and Alabama State.
That's the game of the week.
Happy homecoming for Jackson State. Boy, if Alabama State can get any kind of offense,
yep,
it may be a close game.
Carlos, that's the game of the week, man. That's the game of the week. Alabama State and Jackson State. That's the game of the week.
Who you got in that one?
I'm going to go with the home team. I don't think Bama State's going to have the firepower to go down there and beat Jackson at homecoming. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
I would agree. I got Jackson State, Charles. Homecoming, got to be focused. Jason Brown. They'll get it done.
Yeah. I don't know. Bama State clearly has lost something since that Southern game. I don't know what has happened, but they have fallen off. They let the Alcorn game get away. They lost to Miles College, Jackson State.
Could be almost in the category of maybe most disappointing, but I think it'll be another team so far would be number one as far as that. Grambling State and Alabama A&M. That's going to be an interesting game at 2 p.m. on ESPN Plus, and then Houston Christian versus Prairie View A&M. Why am I thinking about Houston Baptist? Did they get renamed?
That's a different program now. If they were playing Houston Baptist, they're gonna have to roll up their sleeve. But probably Houston Christian, that's probably one of those schools that got about 200 or 300 students. I don't think they're gonna have to worry. I think they're sort of like Lincoln University, because they say they got an enrollment of 300, and out of the 300, over 200 of them are athletes. So I expect Southern to do their thing today without a problem.
I'm gonna be disappointed if the second and the third string don't get a quarter and a half of playing time. No need to keep the starters in there the whole game. I'm sorry, Charles. And if for those who believe this will make them feel good, they can score 90 points. I'm not going to feel great.
It's homecoming, Carlos. It's homecoming.
I don't care.
Okay.
I don't care.
Homecoming, baby. It's homecoming.
Yep.
People want to feel good on homecoming now.
Oh, they're feeling good already.
They want to feel better with the football game.
I mean, the beautiful ladies and just all the people coming back and all the fun. Oh, they're gonna have a great time regardless. But Lincoln, you got to play the team that's on your schedule. I understand that, but if you're gonna jump for joy, and if Southern wins by 80 points or 70, be more happier. I'll be more happy if they put up 40, 50 points on Bethune-Cookman.
Right.
Closing comment, guys. We got a minute left.
Well, I think this is going to be a good weekend. I look forward to the SWAC action. I'm also looking forward to basketball season coming up, and I think we're going to have a great run down the stretch for football and then break off into basketball.
Charles?
Buckle up. Second half of the season's coming. Who knows what's going to happen in the Wacky West? Buckle up. Enjoy.
Yep.
And for Southern alums, enjoy yourself. The game is an afterthought. You're back seeing friends you hadn't seen, professors, those who are still with us that you hadn't seen since you left the university. Enjoy yourself. And for me personally, another day, when I wake up, there's a victory. I'm still fighting chronic kidney disease. Guess what? I'm not going to let you down. I'm going to fight. I'm going to give you an update on that situation. But, hey, I love life, and I'm never giving up. I'm fighting and fighting. For Melody and all of our guests, we appreciate you. We'll see you next Saturday. Now you can get ready, Charles, at 11 a.m. for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Until next time, Peace and God bless.